So today I'm going to be talking about AIOps, but I'm also going to be talking about AIOps and how you can go beyond AIOps, and I'll get into it, of course. But my name's Matt Stratton. I'm the service line director for our infrastructure data and analytics practice for a company called Business and Decision, and we're actually a part of the Orange Group. We were acquired last year, so that's why I got the orange shirt. Like I said, what I want to do today is really focus on not just AIOps, but focus on going beyond AIOps and the data that's behind that. So my focus is data and analytics. So it's I'll take you through how to get a little bit more value out of it, how to look at it a little bit more holistically. Okay. So as part of the Orange Group, we have what's called the data journey. I don't know, have you guys seen this slide before? So the idea is that Orange has been around for quite a while, so they really know and understand moving lots of data through pipes, massive amounts of data, really fast, right? And so this is the journey that the data actually takes, right? Where you either capture, collect it, generate it, you transport it through the network, then you store and process it, and that may be processing via encryption, storing it encrypted, compressed, those types of things. And then there's the analysis part, which is really, if you think about it, the whole reason we put data in or collect data is to get that data back out and analyze it, to create something, share something, get some insight. And then at the bottom, because this is the Orange data journey, it's also protected because Orange offers cybersecurity across the network itself. So that's the data journey. And my company, like I said, we're part of the Orange Group, but we're Business and Decision, that we really do fit in that analyze portion. So to give you a little bit more background, the company operates in 11 countries. The US is a country, obviously, that I operate in. We have over 2,500 data and analytics professionals, and we basically provide services in 3 areas. The first is in the data management area. So that means data warehousing, data lakes, data streaming, data integration, data quality, which when you talk about AIOps or pretty much any type of analytics, data quality is always a key component of it. And we were also founded in 1992, so we've actually been doing this for quite a while. We were actually founded as a data and analytics firm, and so we've actually seen over time the progression of what's possible within the analytics world. So just to give you kind of a look at the evolution of it, back in the day, we were really just talking about descriptive analytics, right? So financial reporting after the fact, inventory reports after the fact. And then as we kind of moved forward, we had a little bit more technology that could actually process things. We started to look at the diagnostics, right? Why did something happen? So starting to really dig into it. Followed up, of course, there we go, predictive, which, even though the algorithms for the predictive analytics have been around for 40 or 50 years, it wasn't until, within the last 10 to 15 years that the algorithms could actually be used, because we actually have the compute power, we have the network speeds in order to make it actually effective. And then the next one is prescriptive, right? So as you look at this, as we keep going down, there's less and less what we call human judgment in there because the computer's taking over. I will make one comment about this. It's decision support, decision automation, but it still always reflects human judgment, right? There's always human judgment in there somewhere. Even when you get down here, you're actually modeling what human judgment is. So you're using that data, and that's why I mentioned data quality before, because if the data that's coming in isn't very good, then you're not going to get a very good output. And then we arrive at today where, we've got cognitive AI. So you can be, using natural language processing for text and images, image processing, facial recognition, video. So there's, with all that compute power, there's a lot more that can be done and actually start to look at a lot more data and a lot more use cases for it. And then the last point here is it all feeds back, right? So now that we've got the infrastructure, we've got the speed, we've got the compute, everything starts to feed back, and then that's how it actually uses human judgment to continually learn, and that's why we need, good data and also good judgment. So let me move into AIOps. Anybody heard of AIOps? Anybody here heard of it? Seen it? Oh, anybody? No? So I'm assuming you guys have gone around the show and there's been a couple of AIOps presentations or packages, software packages and stuff. So I'll just give you my take. Even Gartner defines it basically as IT tech, managing IT tech and using AI in order to better manage it, right? I broaden it a little bit because I see operational tech in that same kind of place, and there's this conversion of IT and operational tech that's coming, whether people want to or believe it or not. And so when you talk about things like IoT or any device that you can pull diagnostic data from or have it pushed, at that point, I don't think it really matters whether it's IT or OT. You can still apply AI to it and actually get some good outcomes. So you may have seen some stats, maybe some even higher stats of bringing ticket volumes down or reducing MTTR and things like that. And so once you've taken all of this data, right, correlated it, and you figure out, a database server and a load balancer, all the issues they're having are actually related to maybe the load balancer failing, then you can actually have just a single person attack that problem rather than have multiple people going after symptoms, right? So the way I like to explain it is, AIOps allows you to, instead of have 10 people all chase 10 different symptoms only to arrive at the same root cause, you can just have one person go to the root cause and take care of that. That way your team's freed up so you can actually do, things like automation or just patch things, right? The things that you never actually get to, the things that are, of higher value, but you're just so busy chasing tickets down and figuring out, who's supposed to be doing this, that you never get to those I guess, the activities that are a bit more fun, right? And then the last part, once we get to that point where, you're using, let's say, runbooks, you're automating things, the remediation of things is automated. The simple, instead of having to get up in the middle of the night and press the button to restart something, that first level of defense is already doing that. But once you go beyond that, what's the next step, right? If you've automated things and the ticket levels are down, that's great, but you really still don't have much about what could happen in the future. So truly not predicting what's happening now, but predicting what could happen in the future and what scenarios are going to happen in the future. And that's where this becomes less of a product and becomes more of a paradigm. So just like DevOps or data ops, when you talk about AIOps, it's a transformation of not just a tool or a technology, but of actual group of people, and that means that people will learn new things, or you'll bring in people to help on the data science side. So if you're going to try and predict things that are going to happen in the future, you need people to understand what variables are the biggest influence in the model in order to figure out, if the holiday season is going to be coming up and it's August and you see this load on your server farm and everything's fine because you can handle that. But if you project forward, you may see that during the holiday season, you won't have enough resources. And maybe, if you're on a cloud service, maybe you can't, you haven't budgeted enough to allow it to scale up quick enough. So, things like that just take a little bit more skill at this point. I mean, there are tools that can kind of help, but, it's a combination of people, process, and tools. So that's the AI ops. Let me move on to into once you have that, or what does that mean? So really quick, data is the new oil. A lot of people. Has anybody heard that? Data is the new oil. Some kind of phrase like that. I always challenge this one because I don't think it is the new oil. I think it's better because oil is fundamentally it's a single thing, right? One drop of oil can only go to one single product. Data, on the other hand, can fulfill multiple things at the same time. It could do it in real time. It could do it a week from now, a month from now, a year from now. That data, doesn't get destroyed. I won't get into the thermodynamics of it, but data isn't really subject to physics, right? So that's why I see it's different. At the same time, it does still follow in that data journey that I was showing you. It still does flow through that journey like a raw material that can be used in different areas for different purposes. So, and the reason I brought that up is because as you do this AI ops transformation, it's an opportunity to actually, from a whole organization standpoint, actually change the mindset of how you look at data, right? So if you look at it from your perspective, let's say you're in IT ops, and tickets are really your fundamental thing that you're looking at and resolving issues. You may not know what's outside of your silo. So probably all heard data silos. Data sits in silos. Data doesn't really sit in silos. People sit in silos, right? Because the data is just in different systems. It's that people don't recognize that data actually can be combined across to see other kind of insight. You need more tickets. So when you get this enterprise mindset and you start looking across the different domains, and this can be tough for everybody. You have a day job, so you're not really focused on what other possibilities there are. But if you do look at it from an enterprise standpoint, you can function in your core business, which is your core ERP systems, things like that. Your extended enterprise, where you start talking about customers and partners, and then the business ecosystem, which could be anything from multiple business partners to data that's outside that you're purchasing and using. So you end up with the same data that's going across your network or your servers, and you end up being able to use it for other things like security ops or for application monitoring, DevOps, data ops. You can use it for if you have multiple CMDBs, you can federate those and actually pull all your assets and see like SLAs in a single pane of glass, right? So there's asset management, operational tech I mentioned. Beyond preventative maintenance, there's also a concept of predictive mitigation, right? So when I was mentioning about, it's August and you've got your web server farm and everything's fine, predictive mitigation looks forward and says what risks and issues are there in the future, right? So it's not about the hardware is going to die. It's just you simply don't have enough hardware. Or predictive mitigation can be threats on the network, people trying to come in from the outside. How do you mitigate that? How do you predict when that might happen? What are the what's happening there? All that data that you need for those things, it's the same data that you would use for AIOps, right? So you can use it for customer experience. You can use it for employee experience. You can use it for partner experience. So that's the idea of your extended enterprise or the ecosystem. Customers is kind of a generic term. If you think about it, your employees can be customers or your partners could be your customers. And when it really comes down to it, everybody has to have a good experience in order to work well together in this ecosystem. And then the last, what did I put there? Oh, the last part, probably for some people the most important part, especially if you're a lawyer, is the idea of data security, privacy, and compliance. So again, all this data that I'm talking about can be used for all these different purposes is also subject to lots of compliance laws. Like GDPR if you're in Europe. Here in California, CCPA, which is a little bit stricter than even GDPR. Washington State. So there's a lot of states and a lot of places where compliance to just data privacy is going to be, a growing issue. Same with, SOX compliance, FDA compliance, you name it, any kind of compliance. So as you take that enterprise data mindset and you start thinking outside of your silo, you do also have to make sure that you're communicating with everybody to understand what the risks are as well of using that data. Does that make sense? Okay. So once you have that kind of a mindset, you remember the Nike "Just Do It," their phrase or the marketing pitch? Well, at B&D, we have that idea, but it's in 4 categories, where you can do new, you can do better, you can do more, you can do right. So when you talk about AIOps, you're talking about doing better, operational efficiency, right? You want to just go ahead and make things more efficient so that you free up time to actually do other things. But these other categories of do more, that can just mean doing more business, having more revenue, losing less customers because of the experience that you can give them based on all the data that you have available in your enterprise, or perhaps by purchasing and getting data from the outside. Doing right, that's the compliance part. And then doing new, completely new business models, right? Seeing outside, getting outside of the box and seeing that data that your organization has as something that can actually change a business model, right? Can be something that could be the raw material for a whole new line of business, right? And as IT folks, we see that data, we know that data, right? So we can actually become part of that conversation. So to give you an idea, once you go beyond just the simple AIOps, I just called AIOps simple. Once you go beyond AIOps, you can start using the rest of your infrastructure, right? Like the Meraki Wi-Fi or the cameras. So you can start using those in different situations, like we have with clients where we're taking the cameras and we're doing facial recognition. So we're looking, I'll give you an example. We have a client that we're working with where they have like a video kiosk. Think of a vending machine from the old days. And it can be multilingual, and it has its pathway through the user interface, right? By using things like sentiment analysis from facial recognition, you can actually tell what somebody's mood is. So for example, if you walk up and you're starting to get confused because you don't understand the interface, or you're starting to get angry at the interface, you can deploy a salesperson immediately to actually go help that person rather than have them use it and have a bad experience with it. If you think even farther ahead of that, you can start to look at it as, if they're confused, maybe we need to adapt the user interface in real time, right? Maybe it needs to go a different direction. Maybe we need to use some conversational AI, some chatbot type technology that is looking at the fact they're confused, going a different path, and then seeing that their facial expression relaxes, right? So that's, again, that's just using a camera and using some AI. So blending your infrastructure with some data science and some technology that you may already have. Guest Wi-Fi, same thing, or just Wi-Fi in general. You see this heat map here, partially a camera, but you can tell where people actually move within a building. At B&D, we've actually have some technology that we've mapped in a Paris Convention Center, where it auto maps as people walk through. So understanding where people go, how long they stay somewhere. If you incorporate the Wi-Fi with the cameras, you can actually see, I'm saying see too much, you can actually have statistics and analytics that show how long people will dwell at a product on a shelf. And if they're dwelling at it, they pick it up, they put it back, and they don't buy it, and nobody does that, but they spend so much time doing that, maybe it needs to be out of there. Maybe something else needs to go there that actually will sell, right? Because that's very, very valuable space inside of a retail environment. And then the last statement I have here, location, location, location. You can take that information, this information I'm talking about from the infrastructure, you can blend it with your internal data, and then you can bring data from the outside in. And when I say that, I mean things like economic data, traffic patterns around the stores that you have, whether there's a school near the actual place, whether there's events happening, sporting events, political events, whatever. And once you take that information and blend that together with information like this, you can actually, which we've done with major fast food restaurants here, double revenue in a very short period by just giving advice on what things to have, what things not to have, right? So for example, if you've got a university that's sitting right next to your restaurant, and during the summer, your sales go down, it's probably a reason because nobody's there, right? So understanding that if you want to put if that's your location, then maybe you need to put it somewhere else, or maybe you use that information for just simple planning of staffing and things like that. Again, going beyond AIOps, talking about infrastructure, this is a project that we did with the Port of Antwerp, or what they like to call the Port of Analytics, POA, where we were actually taking the signals that ships emit, all marine vessels, the unique signature for the actual vessel. And we're actually using those and helping the Port of Antwerp use those signals to understand where ships are, where they are, to help avoid traffic accidents inside the port. Understand which dock to actually put them at. Understand when they're arriving, whether they're arriving earlier or later than expected. And in shipping, that's important because docks are expensive, and unloading and loading goods is very expensive. So knowing that ahead of time, rather than relying on the schedule, means you can better optimize where you actually have the vessel go. You can plan out when you need the trucks there, when you need the people who can offload and load things on to big containers. You can track containers around. And we've even taken it to the point where we have a do right. So a lot of this is safety, a lot of this is just efficiency, but we actually can track the chemical signatures that come off the boats as they're washing them or just coming off the boats, and tie it to a specific vessel, so that if the water is getting polluted by that specific signature, we can actually tell the port what vessel to go to or what company to go to in order to resolve that issue. So, I could go on for a long time with other great stories, but what it all comes down to is, these are great things that you can do with your infrastructure, but it requires investment, right? I choose this word rather than budget. I choose this word rather than cost. In fact, I look at it as investment. I try never to use the word cost. I try to use the word profit, because in IT, we need to start thinking about profit, not about cost, right? We need to stop racing to the bottom to find the lowest price and figure out how to align our investments to what the mission of our business is, right? If we're here to serve the customers, then let's not just make choices based on the lowest price of something, right? Lowest price software, the lowest price employee, something like that. You want to find the right software. You want to find the right process. You want to find the right people in order to be successful. So that's why I say invest, right? And as you do that, I did keep this in. Okay, I won't read this one. But what you want to do is avoid the what I call the yawn response, right? So you're explaining it to a CFO, a CEO, management, senior executives, right? And you go through this long statement of why you want, to include infrastructure analytics or AIOps, and rationalize that kind of investment. And it goes on another page, and you keep going on and on and on, right? And you get finally to the end where you finally try to tie it to, the statement that we're an innovative or agile company, right? For the executive, though, when they start hearing this, what they really hear is just blah, 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 Bart, blah, 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 Homer, right? I don't know if you've seen the old Simpsons episode where, the teacher's talking to Bart and Homer, all they hear is their name, and there's just blah, 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 right? So the point here is that when you're talking about an investment and you're talking to the executives, you have to think about your audience. You have to think about what's important to them, what's going to resonate with them, right? So you don't want to alienate them. You want to actually resonate with them. So if it's a CFO, they're going to be concerned with costs. Let's back to life, right? But if you can show the return on investment, if you can show how it's going to improve the business, if you can get the help from a CTO or from an innovation officer to help monetize or put a value on the actual investment that may be somewhat intangible, right? Because innovation, you don't know what the value might be. It could be billions of dollars, it could be $100,000, it could be zero, right? But it may lead to other things. If you're talking to the chief marketing officer, instead of going in with MTTR and MTTA, we're going to reduce those down by half. They don't care about that, right? I think everybody's probably improved their process and done a great job, and still had somebody come and just go down your throat yelling at you because it went out, right? They don't care about that. But what they might care about is the fact that everything that's happening on that web server, right? Every step that somebody takes through a web page, every single path they go is important, right? Now there's software that can help them with that, but if you tie it with the call center software that you might have, if you tie it to the retail information you may have from your Wi-Fi, understanding you have all that data, now you're talking on a totally different conversation, and you can have somebody actually help you evangelize to get AIOps in place, because it can lead to so many other great things, right? Yeah, so that's how how do you do it? I just made it sound pretty easy, right? But the fact is you have to translate IT to business, right? You have to think about your audience and try and, you have to sell them on it, right? And that, it can be difficult. And so, that's something we've helped many clients do, take that look and basically look at the business outcomes that people want, and help them find the strategy to actually convey that, find the roadmap that will get them there. Right, so that's one of the reasons that Orange acquired us, is for that kind of business capability, aside from the data management and the analytics and all that good stuff. So I think that's my last slide. I appreciate everybody listening. Anybody have any questions? No? It's all clear? Something you can take back and be like, I can use that? Yeah? Bueno, okay, good. Well, thank you, I appreciate it. If you did get a ticket, make sure you come back at noon. What time? 12:30? 12:30? Sorry, 12:30. 12:30, you can get another one because we'll be talking about customer experience and contact centers and things like that. And we have a drawing for a sweet pair of headphones. It's the Poly or the Plantronic? The Poly 8200 noise canceling headphones. So come on back for that session and you may win some headphones.